They'll be balanced, Marcus countered, painting the opposite wall. They'll understand that money is a tool, not a measure of worth. That success can mean many things. That love matters more than status. We'll mess them up in entirely new and creative ways, Lily said. Probably, Marcus agreed. But at least we'll mess them up together. On their first anniversary, Marcus came home to find Lily sitting on their couch with tears streaming down her face. He immediately panicked, thinking something terrible had happened. "What's wrong?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Lily held up a letter. "The center received a grant," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "A big one. Enough to fund operations for 5 years and expand to 2 more locations. We can help so many more children." Marcus hugged her as she cried happy tears. This was what success looked like in their world. Not a promotion or a bonus or a luxury purchase. Success was being able to help more children, to give more families hope, to create more opportunities where none existed before. "You did this," Marcus said. "You built something amazing." "We did this," Lily corrected. "Your connections, your advice, your belief in what we could accomplish. You were part of this too." They had learned to share successes and failures, to be true partners who supported each other's dreams while maintaining their own identities. It wasn't always easy. They still had arguments about money, about time management, about whose career took priority in any given situation. But they had built something rare and valuable. A relationship based on mutual growth rather than perfect compatibility. A marriage that celebrated differences rather than erasing them. A partnership that made both of them better versions of themselves. Marcus still went to work in his suits and attended board meetings and managed investments. But now he came home to a house filled with music, to a wife who challenged him to think beyond profit margins, to a life that measured success in changed lives rather than quarterly earnings. Lily still taught music and fought for funding and advocated for children who needed advocates. But now she had a partner who used his resources and connections to amplify her voice, who respected her work as equal to his own, who had proven that love could transcend social and economic divides. Years later, when people asked them how they made it work despite their differences, Marcus and Lily would smile at each other with the comfortable understanding of people who had fought through difficulties together. "We decided that being different was more interesting than being the same," Lily would say. "And we learned that love isn't about finding someone perfect," Marcus would add. "It's about finding someone worth fighting for, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Their story wasn't about a rich man saving a poor woman or a noble woman teaching a shallow man to care. It was about 2 people who challenged each other to grow, who chose each other despite all the reasons not to, who built a life that honored both of their worlds while creating something entirely new. And in the end, that was better than any fairy tale could have been. Marcus put the ring on her finger with shaking hands. It fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting for her all along. They kissed on their bench in the park, 2 people from different worlds who had created their own world together. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. They still had challenges ahead. Marcus's career would always be different from Lily's, creating tensions they'd have to navigate. His mother would take years to fully accept Lily. Money would remain a complicated topic between them. They would have arguments and doubts and difficult days. But they had learned something more valuable than perfect compatibility. They had learned how to choose each other, over and over again, through complications and fears and uncertainty. The wedding was small and unconventional, held at the community center on a Saturday afternoon. The guest list was an unusual mix of Marcus's colleagues in expensive suits sitting beside Lily's students and their families. Marcus's mother came, though she spent most of the reception talking quietly with parents about their children's progress, slowly beginning to understand the world her son had chosen. Instead of a traditional first dance, Lily and Marcus performed together. Lily played violin while Marcus attempted to accompany her on piano, something he'd been secretly learning for months. He made mistakes, his timing was off in places, but Lily smiled at him throughout, adjusting her playing to match his, showing him the same patience she showed her struggling students. The crowd loved it precisely because it was imperfect. It represented their relationship honestly. Two people from different backgrounds, different skill levels, different worlds, creating something beautiful together despite the mistakes and difficulties. Little Sarah stood up during the reception and announced she wanted to say something. Her mother tried to stop her, embarrassed, but Lily encouraged her to speak. Miss Lily and Mr. Marcus taught me something important, Sarah said, her 7-year-old voice clear in the quiet room. They taught me that being different from someone doesn't mean you can't love them. My mom and my dad were different, and they couldn't make it work. But Miss Lily and Mr. Marcus are different too, and they did make it work. That means maybe when I grow up, I don't have to find someone exactly like me. I can find someone different who makes me better. The room erupted in applause. Marcus and Lily looked at each other with tears in their eyes. They had been so focused on their own struggles that they hadn't realized they were modeling something important for the children watching them. They were showing that love could bridge divides, that differences could be strengths, that choosing each other was more powerful than perfect compatibility. As the celebration continued, Marcus found himself standing with his former boss, who had attended out of professional courtesy despite their tense history. "You seem happy, Chen," his boss said, sipping champagne. "I am," Marcus replied simply. "You gave up a lot for this," his boss continued. "Partnership, prestige, the corner office. Do you ever regret it?" Marcus looked across the room at Lily, who was helping one of her students fix his tie while laughing at something the child said. He thought about his old life, the empty penthouse, the meaningless happy hours, the relationships that felt like business transactions. "Not even once," Marcus said. "I didn't give up anything that mattered. I just finally figured out what actually does matter." His boss nodded slowly. "Maybe you're braver than I thought. Or maybe you're just crazy. I haven't decided which." "Maybe both," Marcus said with a smile. After the wedding, Marcus and Lily didn't go on an expensive honeymoon. Instead, they spent a week fixing up a small house they'd bought together, halfway between the community center and Marcus's office. It was old and needed work, but it was theirs, purchased with money from both of them, a true partnership. As they painted walls and assembled furniture, they talked about their future. They would keep working, both of them, in their different worlds. Lily would continue growing the center's programs. Marcus would continue in finance, though he'd learned to set boundaries that preserved time for what mattered most. They talked about possibly having children someday, about the complications that would bring, about how they would raise kids who understood both privilege and struggle, both wealth and generosity. "Our children will be so confused," Lily joked as she painted a bedroom wall. "They'll have a mother who can barely pay bills and a father who has more money than sense." 6 months after Marcus's confrontation with his boss, the community center held another concert. This time, it wasn't a desperate fundraiser but a celebration. The center had secured long-term funding and was expanding to serve more children. Lily had built a team of teachers, and the program was thriving. Marcus sat in the audience with his mother. Getting her there had required weeks of persistent invitations, but she had finally agreed to come. She sat stiffly in the folding chair, her designer handbag on her lap, looking uncomfortable among the diverse crowd of families. When Lily walked onto the stage, Marcus's mother studied her critically. But as Lily began to speak about the children, about what music had given them, about the transformation she'd witnessed over the years, something shifted in his mother's expression. The students performed beautifully. Little Sarah, no longer so little, played a violin solo that brought tears to many eyes. James recited a poem he'd written, his stutter barely noticeable because music had taught him rhythm and breath control. Maria, whose mother worked 3 jobs, had written her own composition and played it on the piano Marcus had bought. After the concert, as families mingled and celebrated, Marcus's mother approached Lily. Marcus watched nervously from across the room. "That was impressive," his mother said stiffly. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen," Lily replied politely. There was an awkward pause. Then his mother said something Marcus didn't expect, "I was wrong about you." Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "I thought you were just a distraction," his mother continued. "Someone who would pull my son away from what matters. But watching you tonight, seeing what you've built here, I realize you haven't pulled him away from what matters. You've shown him what actually matters. Lily didn't know how to respond. This was the woman who had called her inappropriate, who had questioned her worth, who had tried to end their relationship before it began. Marcus is happy, his mother said quietly. Truly happy, for the first time in his adult life. I can see it in his face when he talks about this place, about these children, about you. He's found something I never could give him. Purpose. He's found it himself, Lily said gently. I just showed him where to look. Marcus's mother nodded slowly. Perhaps. But it takes a special person to see potential in others and help them become who they're meant to be. That's what you do for these children. That's what you've done for my son. It wasn't a warm embrace or a declaration of acceptance, but it was a beginning. As his mother left, she paused and said to Marcus, "Don't mess this up." Marcus laughed. "I'll try not to." That night, Marcus and Lily walked through the city together. They had been dating for almost a year now, and the relationship had evolved beyond the initial intensity into something deeper and more stable. They had learned each other's rhythms, accommodated each other's quirks, built a life that incorporated both of their worlds. They stopped at the park where they'd spent so many afternoons. The bench had become their place, a symbol of where they'd slowly built trust and understanding. "I want to ask you something," Marcus said, his heart pounding. Lily turned to face him, seeing nervousness in his eyes. "We've been through a lot together," Marcus continued. "We've fought and made up and learned and grown. We've integrated our different worlds in ways I never thought possible. And through it all, you've made me better. You've made my life meaningful." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Lily's breath caught. "I'm not asking yet," Marcus said quickly, seeing her panic. "I know you need time. I know marriage is a huge step, especially with all our complications. But I want you to know that I'm ready. Whenever you are. If you ever are. This ring is a promise that I'm in this for the long term. That I'm not going anywhere." Lily looked at the box, her mind racing. Marriage had always seemed like something for other people, people with stable careers and matching backgrounds and uncomplicated lives. But as she looked at Marcus, at this man who had changed his entire life to make room for her, who had learned to listen instead of fix, who had chosen love over practicality, she realized something important. "Open it," she said. Marcus opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. "It's perfect," Lily said. "And my answer is yes." Marcus froze. "Yes? Really? But I wasn't even asking yet. I wanted to give you time to think." "I've had time to think," Lily said, smiling through sudden tears. "A year of thinking? And I've realized that I'm never going to feel completely ready. There's never going to be a perfect moment where all our problems are solved and everything makes sense. But I love you. I want to build a life with you. I want to be brave enough to say yes even though it scares me." "Maybe I did," Marcus said. "Maybe I needed to prove that I'm not my father, always choosing practicality over love. Maybe I needed to show that I'm willing to fight for this, even when it's hard, even when it costs me something." They met at their park, the place where they'd spent so many afternoons talking. It was raining lightly, but neither of them cared. They sat on their bench, getting wet, holding hands. "I'm scared," Marcus admitted. "I don't know what's going to happen with my job. I might get fired. I might have to find something new. My mother is going to lose her mind when she finds out." "I'm scared too," Lily said. "Scared that you'll resent me if you lose your career. Scared that this grand gesture will turn into regret. Scared that we're both in over our heads." "Probably," Marcus agreed. "We probably are in over our heads. But isn't that better than playing it safe and being miserable?" Lily laughed, a sound that was half joy and half fear. "When did you become so brave?" "When I met you," Marcus said simply. "You taught me that some things are worth risking everything for." They sat in the rain, two people from different worlds who had chosen each other despite all the logical reasons not to. It wasn't a perfect moment. They were both scared, uncertain about the future, Worried about practical things like money and careers and disapproving mothers. But it was real. And real, they were both learning, was better than safe. Marcus did not get fired, though his boss made it clear that his advancement opportunities were limited now. He was no longer on the fast track to partnership. His colleagues treated him differently, seeing his choice as a betrayal of the unspoken rules that governed their world. But Marcus found he didn't care as much as he thought he would. He had time for dinner with Lily. He could volunteer at the center again. He saw his students make progress, watched little Sarah overcome her shyness, helped James with his stuttering by teaching him to breathe before he spoke. He discovered that success could be measured in ways that had nothing to do with titles or bonuses or corner offices. Success could be a child's smile when they finally mastered a difficult piece. Success could be falling asleep next to someone you loved instead of alone in a penthouse apartment. Success could be knowing that your life meant something beyond quarterly reports. The late nights and weekend work meant less time with Lily and no time for volunteering at the center. Lily noticed the change immediately. Marcus seemed stressed, distracted, exhausted. He stopped asking about her day. Their conversations became transactional, logistics and schedules rather than real connection. One Saturday, Marcus canceled their dinner plans because of a work emergency. Then he canceled the next week too. And the week after that. Lily felt the distance growing between them, and her old fears resurfaced. This was how it started. This was how people drifted apart and eventually left. She called him on a Thursday night, and he answered from his office where he'd been working since 6 that morning. "We need to talk," Lily said. Those words sent ice through Marcus's veins. "Okay," he said carefully. "This isn't working," Lily continued. "You're drowning in work, I'm drowning in work, and we barely see each other anymore. When we do see each other, we're both too tired to really be present." "I know," Marcus admitted. "I'm sorry. This restructuring has been brutal. But it will calm down eventually." "Will it?" Lily asked. "Or will there always be another crisis, another deadline, another emergency?" "Marcus, I need to know if you still want this. If you still want us. Because if you don't, if this has become just another obligation you're too busy for, then tell me now." Marcus felt panic rising. "Of course I want us. Lily, I love you." The words hung in the air. It was the first time either of them had said it. "You love me," Lily repeated quietly. "But do you love me enough to prioritize us? To set boundaries at work? To choose this relationship even when it's inconvenient?" Marcus didn't answer immediately because he didn't know the answer. He had been raised to believe that career came first, that success required sacrifice, that personal relationships should accommodate professional demands. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "I've never had to choose before. My career has always been the most important thing in my life. And now you are, but I don't know how to reorganize everything around that." "Then maybe you need to figure that out," Lily said gently. "Because I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly wondering if I matter enough. Where I'm always competing with your job and losing." They ended the call without resolution. Marcus sat in his empty office, the city lights twinkling below, and forced himself to confront an uncomfortable truth. He had been so focused on proving he could be part of Lily's world that he hadn't actually changed anything about his own world to make room for her. The next morning, Marcus walked into his boss's office and did something he'd never done before. He set boundaries. He explained that he needed regular hours to maintain important personal commitments. He offered to continue producing excellent work, but within reasonable time constraints. His boss was not happy. "This is about that girl, isn't it? Chen, I warned you. You're losing your edge." "Maybe," Marcus said. "Or maybe I'm finally gaining perspective on what actually matters." "If you're not committed to this firm," his boss said coldly, "perhaps we should discuss your future here." Marcus felt fear grip him. This was his career, his identity, everything he'd worked for. But then he thought about Lily, about the life they were trying to build, about who he wanted to be. If my future here requires me to sacrifice everything else in my life, Marcus said slowly, then maybe we should discuss it. He left the office without knowing if he still had a job. His hands were shaking. He had just risked his entire career for a relationship that was hanging by a thread. His mother would say he was being foolish. His old self would agree. But his new self, the one Lily had helped him discover, knew it was the right choice. He called Lily from his car. "I did something crazy," he said when she answered. "How crazy?" Lily asked cautiously. "I might have just quit my job crazy," Marcus said. "Or at least set myself up to be fired. I told my boss I needed better work-life balance. That I had priorities outside of work. That I wasn't willing to sacrifice my personal life anymore." There was silence on the other end. Then Lily's voice, small and uncertain, "Why would you do that?" "Because you asked me if I love you enough to prioritize us," Marcus said. "And the answer is yes. I do. You're not an obligation or a distraction or something I fit in between work emergencies. You're the most important thing in my life, and I needed to prove that to you. To prove it to myself." "Marcus," Lily said, and he could hear tears in her voice. "You didn't have to risk your career for me." "No, it doesn't," Lily agreed. "But it helps me understand." And I told her something important. I told her that I would never let you sacrifice your career for me. That I would never be the reason you lose what you've worked for. That if we do this together, we do it as partners who support each other, not as one person dragging the other down. Marcus came around his desk and knelt beside Lily's chair. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to try," Lily said, taking his hands. "I want to build something with you, despite all the complications and differences and difficulties. I want to trust you, even though trust terrifies me. I want to let myself need you, without feeling like that makes me weak." "Are you sure?" Marcus asked. "Because I need you to be sure. I can't go through this again, getting close and then having you push me away." "I'm sure," Lily said. "Or at least as sure as anyone can be about something this scary. I can't promise I won't have moments of doubt or fear. I can't promise this will be easy. But I can promise I'll try. I'll try to trust, to accept help, to build a life with you instead of protecting myself from you." Marcus pulled Lily into a hug, and for the first time, she let herself fully lean into him. They stayed like that for a long moment, office sounds muted beyond the closed door, the city buzzing below through the windows. "I have a proposal," Marcus said when they finally pulled apart. "And I want you to really think about it before answering." Lily tensed slightly, old fears creeping back. "The community center needs a full-time director," Marcus continued. "Someone to manage fundraising, coordinate programs, oversee operations. The board wants to offer you the position. It would come with a real salary, benefits, and budget authority." "Marcus, did you arrange this?" Lily asked suspiciously. "I suggested it," Marcus admitted. "But the board made the decision. They've watched you work for years, Lily. You've been doing the director's job anyway, just without the title or compensation. This makes it official." Lily's mind raced. A real salary would change everything. She could afford a better apartment, buy her own instruments, stop living paycheck to paycheck. But accepting felt like accepting Marcus's help again. "This isn't charity," Marcus said, reading her expression. "You've earned this. The board sees what I see. You're the heart of that place. You should be compensated appropriately." "I need to think about it," Lily said. "Of course," Marcus agreed. "Take all the time you need." They left his office together, and for the first time, Marcus didn't care who saw them. His colleagues could whisper about the music teacher girlfriend all they wanted. His boss could question his priorities. None of it mattered as much as the woman walking beside him. Over the next month, Lily accepted the director position. The new funding Marcus had helped secure allowed the center to replace the vandalized instruments and expand their program. 3 more teachers were hired, and enrollment doubled. But success brought new challenges. Lily was overwhelmed with administrative work, grant writing, budget management, and board meetings. She had less time to teach, which was the part she loved most. She came home exhausted every night, collapsing on her couch without energy for conversation. Marcus tried to help, but his help often came across as micromanagement. He had opinions about how she should organize her schedule, suggestions for delegation, thoughts on operational efficiency. Lily appreciated his concern but felt suffocated by his constant problem-solving. "I don't need you to fix my workday," she finally snapped one evening when he suggested she hire an assistant. "I just need you to listen." "I am listening," Marcus protested. "And I'm trying to help you solve the problems you're talking about." "That's not what listening is," Lily said tiredly. "Listening is just hearing me, acknowledging my stress, being present. Not every problem needs an immediate solution." Marcus sat back, frustrated. His entire professional life was built on identifying problems and solving them efficiently. Not solving things felt like failing. But he was beginning to understand that relationships didn't work like business deals. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm still learning how to do this. How to be a partner instead of a consultant." Lily softened. "I know. And I'm learning too. Learning to let you in without feeling weak. Learning to share my burdens without feeling like I'm asking too much." They were both discovering that love required constant adjustment, constant communication, constant effort to understand each other's different languages and needs. 3 months into Lily's new position, Marcus's firm announced major layoffs. His department was being restructured, and while his job was safe, he was expected to work longer hours to compensate for reduced staff. "I'm not going to leave," Marcus said quietly. "Why won't you believe that?" "Because everyone leaves eventually," Lily said, tears finally spilling over. "My father left. My ex-boyfriend left when he realized I'd never make enough money. Friends leave when they get better jobs and move to better neighborhoods. People always leave, Marcus. Especially people like you who have options." Marcus felt the weight of her past disappointments, all the time she'd been abandoned by people who claimed to care. He understood then that this wasn't really about money or social classes. It was about trust, and trust couldn't be bought or argued into existence. "Okay," Marcus said, standing up. "I'm going to go now. But not because I'm leaving you. I'm going because you need space, and I respect that. When you're ready to talk, I'll be here. Whether that's tomorrow or next month or next year. I'll be here." He walked out of the center, leaving Lily sitting among the broken instruments. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done, walking away when every instinct told him to stay and fix things. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe he'd been trying to fix things that didn't need fixing, instead of just being present for someone who needed presence more than solutions. Over the next week, Marcus didn't contact Lily. He respected her space, even though it killed him. But he did something else. He reached out to everyone he knew who might be interested in supporting arts education. He contacted grant organizations, corporate giving programs, and philanthropic foundations. He put together a detailed proposal for sustainable funding, not a one-time donation but a long-term support structure. He worked with the community center's board to develop a proper fundraising strategy. He connected them with lawyers who could help them achieve nonprofit status for better funding opportunities. He did all of this without telling Lily, without expecting credit, simply because the work needed doing and he had the skills and connections to do it. On the 8th day, Lily showed up at his office. His assistant tried to stop her, but Lily walked past the desk straight to Marcus's corner office. He looked up from his computer, surprised and hopeful. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Lily said, standing in his doorway. "About us. About what I want. About what scares me." Marcus waited, not daring to speak. "I realized something," Lily continued. "I've been so afraid of being the poor girlfriend that I've been rejecting any help, any support, any partnership. I've been trying to prove I don't need you, because needing someone feels like weakness to me." She walked into his office and closed the door behind her. "But that's not fair to you. You're not responsible for my past hurts. You're not my father who left or my ex-boyfriend who cared more about money than love. You're Marcus, and you've been showing up for me every single day, even when I made it difficult. I want to show up, Marcus said. Not because you need rescuing, but because that's what people do when they care about each other. They show up. I know that now, Lily said. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I heard about what you've been doing for the center. The board told me about the funding proposals, the connections, the sustainable support structure you're building. You weren't supposed to know about that, Marcus said. Why not? Lily asked. Because you thought I'd be angry? Marcus, I'm not angry. I'm grateful. You did exactly what I asked. You didn't just throw money at the problem. You created solutions that will last, that will help the center succeed independently. She sat down across from his desk. I also talked to your mother again. Marcus's eyes widened. Why would you do that? Because she's your mother, and she's never going to go away. I needed to understand why she hates me so much. So I called her and asked to meet for coffee. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. What happened? She told me about your father, Lily said. About how he came from money but lost it all on bad business decisions. About how she had to work 3 jobs to keep you in private school. About how she promised herself that you would never struggle the way they did. Marcus had never heard his mother talk about this. She always presented their life as stable, successful, without acknowledging the years of struggle. She's terrified of you ending up like your father, Lily continued. Choosing love over practicality and losing everything. That's why she's so hostile to me. It's not really about me at all. It's about her own trauma. That doesn't excuse how she treated you, Marcus said firmly. They didn't speak for 3 days. Marcus threw himself into work, staying late at the office, trying to convince himself that maybe his mother was right. Maybe this relationship was a foolish distraction. Maybe he should just go back to his comfortable, empty life. On the 3rd day, Marcus received a call from the community center. It was one of the volunteers, crying. Mr. Chen, something happened. You need to come now. Marcus raced to the center, his mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. When he arrived, he found Lily sitting in her small office, surrounded by broken instruments. Someone had broken into the center overnight and vandalized the music room. Guitars were smashed, drumheads were torn, sheet music was scattered and destroyed. Lily looked up when Marcus entered. Her eyes were red from crying, but her face showed something beyond sadness. Defeat. It's over, she said simply. Even if we had the money to replace everything, which we don't, the center's insurance won't cover full replacement costs. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss permanent closure. Marcus sat beside her among the wreckage. He saw years of work destroyed. Instruments that students had saved money to buy. Music stands donated by families who could barely afford them. It wasn't just property damage. It was destroyed dreams. Let me help, Marcus said. Please. Not as your boyfriend or as someone trying to prove something. Just as someone who cares about these kids. With what? Lily asked bitterly. More money? Another check to solve everything? That's always your solution, Marcus. Throw money at the problem. Then tell me what else I can do, Marcus said, frustration rising. I have resources. I have connections. I have the ability to help, and you won't let me because of your pride. It's not about pride, Lily snapped. It's about the fact that you can't fix everything. Some things are just broken, and money doesn't fix broken. But it could replace these instruments, Marcus argued. It could give these kids another chance. And what about the next time something goes wrong? Lily asked. Will you always be there with your checkbook? Will you solve every problem? What happens to the center when you get bored and move on? What happens to me? The real issue finally emerged, clear and painful. Lily wasn't just afraid of being dependent on Marcus's money. She was afraid of being dependent on Marcus, period. Of building something together and then watching him walk away when reality stopped being interesting. They dropped the subject, but it lingered between them like smoke. The situation grew more complicated when Marcus's mother demanded to meet Lily. He put it off as long as he could, but his mother was relentless. Finally, he agreed to a lunch, knowing it would be a disaster. His mother chose an upscale restaurant where the cheapest dish cost more than Lily's weekly grocery budget. She arrived dressed impeccably, her jewelry tasteful but clearly expensive. She looked Lily up and down with barely concealed disapproval. "So you're the music teacher," she said, making it sound like an accusation. "Yes, Mrs. Chen," Lily replied politely. "It's nice to meet you." "Is it?" his mother asked. "You must realize this relationship with my son is inappropriate. You come from completely different backgrounds." "Mom," Marcus warned, but she ignored him. "I'm not being cruel," his mother continued. "I'm being realistic. Marcus has responsibilities. Family expectations. A certain lifestyle to maintain. You can't provide that for him." "I'm not trying to provide anything," Lily said, her voice calm but strained. "I'm just trying to get to know your son." "And when you've gotten to know him? What then? Marriage? Children? Can you support a family on a teacher's salary? Or do you expect my son to support you forever?" The words hit Lily like physical blows. These were her own insecurities, spoken aloud by someone who saw her exactly as she feared the world did. As someone not good enough. Someone who would drag Marcus down. "That's enough," Marcus said sharply, standing up. "Lily, we're leaving." But Lily remained seated. "No," she said quietly. "Your mother has a point, Marcus. Have we talked about any of these things? Marriage? Children? Future plans? We've been so focused on the present that we haven't discussed what happens next." Marcus sat back down slowly, realizing she was right. They had been living day to day, avoiding the bigger questions because they were too scary to confront. His mother smiled, thinking she'd won. "You see? You haven't thought this through. You're living in a fantasy." "Maybe we are," Lily said, looking directly at Mrs. Chen. "But at least it's a fantasy where your son is happy. Can you say that about the life you've planned for him? Was he happy at that gala, networking with people he doesn't like? Was he happy when you were sending him photos of appropriate women?" Mrs. Chen's face hardened. "Happiness is a luxury. Security and stability matter more." "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard," Lily replied. "And I teach children who live in poverty. They have more hope than that." The lunch ended shortly after. Marcus's mother left in a fury, warning Marcus that he was making the biggest mistake of his life. In the parking lot, Marcus and Lily sat in his car in silence. "She's not entirely wrong," Lily said eventually. "We have been avoiding the hard questions." "Then let's ask them," Marcus said. "What do you want, Lily? From life? From this relationship? From everything?" Lily thought carefully. "I want to keep teaching. I want to help kids who need help. I want to make music and live simply and go to bed knowing I did something good that day. I don't need luxury or status or wealth. But I also don't want to be someone's charity case or the poor girlfriend everyone pities." "You're not that," Marcus insisted. "To your mother, I am," Lily said. "To your colleagues, I am. Maybe even to you, sometimes, when you're honest with yourself." Marcus wanted to deny it, but he forced himself to examine the truth. Did he see Lily as his equal? Or did he, on some level, see himself as the successful one doing something noble by being with her? "I think," Marcus said slowly, "that I've been so focused on escaping my own life that I haven't fully respected yours. I've been treating your world like it's inferior to mine, something I'm graciously lowering myself to join. And that's wrong. Your work matters more than mine does. You touch lives. You change futures. I just shuffle money around." "Your work matters too," Lily said. "People depend on it. The economy depends on it. You can't diminish what you do just to make me feel better about what I do. They were both realizing that their relationship existed in a complicated space neither of them fully understood how to navigate. It wasn't just about rich and poor. It was about different values, different worlds, different ways of measuring worth and success. I need to think, Lily said. About what I really want, about whether we can make this work, about whether I'm strong enough to deal with people like your mother for the rest of my life. Take all the time you need, Marcus said, though his heart was breaking. Okay, she said finally. We can try. But we do this my way. No more grand gestures without asking. No solving problems with money unless we discuss it first. We build this together, or we don't build it at all. Deal, Marcus said, extending his hand in their now familiar gesture. Instead of shaking it, Lily took his hand and held it. It was the second time they'd held hands, and it felt different this time. More intentional. More real. I'm scared, Lily admitted quietly. I've been disappointed before. I've let myself hope and been crushed. I don't know if I can survive that again. I'm scared too, Marcus confessed. I've never felt this way about anyone. I've never wanted something this much. I don't know how to do relationships, real ones. All my past girlfriends were basically business arrangements. Compatible backgrounds, shared social circles, convenient partnerships. Well then, Lily said with a slight smile, we'll figure it out together. Two scared people stumbling through something neither of us knows how to do. They sat together on the stage edge, hands intertwined, as the cleaning crew locked up the building around them. It wasn't a perfect moment. They were exhausted, the gymnasium smelled like old gym socks and cheap coffee, and they both had work early the next morning. But it felt real in a way Marcus had never experienced before. The next few weeks tested their new arrangement immediately. Marcus started volunteering at the community center twice a week after work. He quickly discovered that working with children was nothing like the board meetings and investor presentations that filled his days. The first time a student called him stupid for not understanding how to tune a guitar, Marcus was shocked speechless. In his world, nobody spoke to him that way. But Lily just laughed and showed him how to redirect the child's frustration into learning. His co-workers noticed the change in his schedule. He left the office at 5 sharp on volunteer days, something the old Marcus would never have done. His assistant Jennifer asked him directly if everything was okay. I'm better than okay, Marcus told her. I'm actually doing something that matters. But integrating his two worlds proved harder than expected. When his firm held a charity gala, Marcus asked Lily to attend as his date. She agreed reluctantly, then spent 3 days stressed about what to wear. She finally admitted she didn't own anything appropriate for a formal event. Marcus wanted to buy her a dress, but remembered their agreement. Instead, he asked if she would let him rent one for the evening. Lily considered refusing, then realized that was her pride talking again. She agreed. The gala was everything Lily had feared. Women in designer gowns and dripping with jewelry. Men discussing 7-figure deals over champagne. People who spent more on a single dinner than Lily spent on groceries in a month. She felt completely out of place despite the beautiful borrowed dress. Marcus introduced her to colleagues and clients. This is Lily. She runs a music program at a community center. How quaint, one woman said with a patronizing smile. I'm sure that must be very rewarding. Lily recognized the tone. It was the same tone people used when talking about hobbies or volunteer work, things that weren't real careers. Things that didn't matter in their world of profit margins and market shares. Marcus's boss cornered them near the dessert table. Chen, heard you've been leaving early recently. Everything all right? You're not losing your edge, are you? Just balancing priorities, Marcus replied diplomatically. Well, remember where your bread is buttered, his boss said, clapping him on the shoulder before moving on to network with someone else. In the car ride home, Lily was quiet. Marcus could feel the tension radiating from her. That was awful, she finally said. I don't belong in that world. They're not all like that, Marcus protested weakly, though he knew she was right. Many of them were exactly like that. Your boss basically told you I'm a distraction, Lily pointed out. And he's right. I am pulling you away from your career. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Marcus said. Maybe my career isn't as important as I thought it was. Lily looked at him seriously. Don't say that. Don't sacrifice things for me that you'll resent later. I've seen that happen. People make grand gestures, give things up for love, and then spend years blaming the other person for what they lost. That won't happen, Marcus insisted. You can't know that, Lily said. We're only a few weeks into this, Marcus. You're still in the honeymoon phase where everything seems possible and nothing seems difficult. Wait until the reality sets in. As the others left, Marcus and Lily found themselves alone in the quiet gymnasium. The new piano sat in the corner, a silent reminder of their earlier argument. I'm sorry, they both said at the same time, then laughed awkwardly. You first, Marcus offered. Lily sat down on the stage edge, her legs dangling. I'm sorry I got so angry about the piano. You were trying to help, and I made it about my pride. The kids were so happy. Did you see their faces? I did, Marcus said, sitting beside her but maintaining a careful distance. And I'm sorry I went behind your back. You told me clearly what your boundaries were, and I ignored them. I justified it by telling myself it was for the kids, but you were right. Part of me did want to be the hero. They sat in silence for a moment. The gymnasium felt larger when it was empty, their voices echoing slightly. I watched you tonight, Marcus said quietly. During the performance. I've never seen anyone so completely in their element. You were guiding those kids, believing in them, lifting them up. It was incredible. Lily smiled softly. They worked so hard. Some of them have never succeeded at anything before. Tonight, they all succeeded together. How do you do it? Marcus asked. How do you stay so positive when you know the center might close? When you're struggling to pay your own bills? When everything seems to be working against you? Lily thought about this carefully. I don't know if I'm positive all the time. Some nights I go home and cry because I can't help all the kids who need help. Because talented students will never get proper training. Because their potential will be wasted. But then I think, if I give up, who else will be here for them? If I quit, they lose even this small thing. So I keep going. That's very brave, Marcus said. It's not brave, Lily replied. It's just the only choice I can live with. Marcus understood what she meant. His whole life had been about making calculated choices. The safest career path, the most profitable decisions, the smartest investments. He had never done anything simply because it was the only choice he could live with. I want to ask you something, Lily said, turning to face him. And I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay, Marcus agreed, nervous about what was coming. Why are you really here? Lily asked. I need to understand what you want from all this. From me? Marcus took a deep breath. He had been avoiding this question himself, not wanting to examine his motivations too closely. But Lily deserved honesty. When I first saw you in the coffee shop, he began slowly, I was at a point in my life where I had everything and felt nothing. I was successful and miserable. Then you walked in with your violin and your paint-stained fingers and you looked like you belonged to a completely different world. A more real world. He paused, gathering his thoughts. At first, yes, you were an escape. A glimpse into a life that meant something beyond quarterly profits. But as I got to know you, something shifted. You challenged me. You didn't care about my money or my status. You were the first person in years who saw me as just Marcus, not as a title or a bank account. That still doesn't answer what you want, Lily pressed gently. Marcus looked at her directly. I want to be part of your world. I want to understand what drives you, what matters to you. I want to be someone who contributes something meaningful instead of just accumulating wealth. And yes, I want to be with you. Not because you're a project or an escape, but because you make me want to be better than I am." Lily's eyes were glistening. "That's a lot of pressure to put on one person," she said. "I can't be responsible for fixing your life or giving it meaning. That has to come from you." "I know," Marcus said. "And I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking if you'll let me try to change, to grow, to become someone worthy of being part of what you do here." "But what happens when the novelty wears off?" Lily asked, her deepest fear finally spoken aloud. "When you realize that my world isn't romantic or inspiring all the time? When it's just hard and exhausting and endless? Will you stick around then?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. He knew she needed more than empty promises. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "I've never done anything like this before. I can't guarantee I won't mess up or get scared or want to run back to my comfortable life. But I can promise I'll try. I can promise I'll be honest with you about what I'm feeling. And I can promise that if I do leave, it won't be because you weren't enough. It will be because I wasn't strong enough." Lily studied his face for a long moment. There was vulnerability in his admission, and honesty in his uncertainty. Maybe that was more valuable than empty promises. "This isn't about being a savior," Marcus argued. "This is about making sure 20 children don't have their hearts broken when their performance is ruined. This is about giving them the concert they've worked months to prepare for. This is about you feeling good about yourself," Lily shot back. "About you showing off how much you can spend without even thinking about it." Marcus felt his own anger rising. "You know what, Lily? Maybe you're right. Maybe I bought the piano because it made me feel good. But right now, those kids have an instrument to play. They have a chance at a successful concert. Are you really going to let your pride ruin that for them?" Lily opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. He was right, and she hated that he was right. The children were gathering around the new piano, their faces full of wonder and excitement. Little Sarah was gently touching the keys, her eyes wide. How could Lily take that away from them to make a point? "This doesn't solve our fundamental problem," Lily said quietly, her anger deflating into sadness. "You and me, we're always going to clash on this. You'll see a problem, throw money at it, and expect everything to be fixed. I'll see that as you not understanding that some problems can't be fixed with money." "Then help me understand," Marcus said. "Show me the problems money can't fix. But don't punish the kids for my mistakes." Before Lily could respond, one of the parents approached them. "Lily, we need you. James is having a panic attack backstage." Lily immediately shifted into teacher mode and hurried away. Marcus stood alone, watching her disappear through the door, wondering if he'd just destroyed whatever fragile connection they'd built. The concert began at 6. The gymnasium filled with families, some in their best clothes, others in work uniforms because they'd come straight from jobs. Marcus helped usher people to seats, handed out programs, and tried to make himself useful while avoiding Lily's gaze. When the lights dimmed and the first student walked onto the small stage, nervous and clutching her flute, the crowd fell silent. She played a simple piece, making a few mistakes, but the audience erupted in applause anyway. One by one, the students performed. Some were talented, others were clearly still learning, but every single one played with their whole heart. Marcus found himself unexpectedly emotional. He watched parents filming on phones with cracked screens, grandparents wiping tears, siblings cheering loudly. These families had so little, but they gave their children the gift of believing in them completely. Then Lily walked onto the stage with her violin, and Marcus forgot to breathe. She wore the same blue dress from the night they met, but under the stage lights, she looked luminous. She spoke briefly about the program, about what music meant to these children, about the uncertain future of the center. "Our final piece tonight," Lily said, "is a collaboration. All of our students, playing together for the first time. They've worked so hard for this moment. Please welcome them to the stage." The children filed out, carrying their various instruments. They arranged themselves carefully, looking at Lily for guidance. She raised her violin, gave them an encouraging smile, and began to play. The music was imperfect. Some students came in at the wrong time. Some notes were off-key. But underneath the mistakes was something beautiful. These children, from different backgrounds, different struggles, different lives, created something together. Something that transcended their individual limitations and became greater than the sum of its parts. Marcus watched Lily as she played. She was completely focused on her students, giving them cues, encouraging them with her eyes and her smile, guiding them through the piece. This was why she did this work. Not for money or recognition, but for these moments when music lifted everyone above their daily struggles into something approaching joy. When the piece ended, the audience exploded into applause. Parents stood, whistling and cheering. Some students were crying happy tears. Little Sarah ran to her mother, who scooped her up and spun her around. The gymnasium filled with a kind of celebration Marcus had never witnessed in his world of polite golf claps and measured approval. After the concert, as families mingled and took photos, Marcus helped clean up. He stayed in the background, stacking chairs, taking down decorations, making himself useful. Lily was surrounded by parents thanking her, by students hugging her, by volunteers congratulating her on the successful event. It was after 9 when the last family left. The remaining volunteers were exhausted but happy. They'd raised almost $8,000, enough to keep the center open for 2 more months while they searched for more permanent funding. "Not bad for a night's work," one of the college volunteers said, high-fiving Lily. Saturday morning arrived too quickly. Marcus showed up at the community center at 8 in the morning, wearing jeans and an old college sweatshirt. Lily was already there with several other volunteers, moving chairs and setting up a small stage in the gymnasium. "You actually came," Lily said, surprise evident in her voice. "I said I would," Marcus replied, echoing their first conversation in the park. The next 8 hours were unlike anything Marcus had experienced. He moved heavy equipment, untangled Christmas lights they were using for stage decoration, ran to the store 3 times for forgotten supplies, and helped wrangle excited children who kept trying to peek at the audience area. The other volunteers were a mix of local parents and college students doing community service. They treated Marcus with friendly suspicion at first, clearly noticing his expensive watch and designer sneakers, but gradually warmed up as he proved willing to do the unglamorous work without complaint. Little Sarah, the girl who came from the fighting household, attached herself to Marcus around noon. She was supposed to be practicing with the other students but kept following him around instead. "Are you Miss Lily's boyfriend?" she asked with the blunt curiosity of a 7-year-old. Marcus didn't know how to answer. "I'm her friend," he said carefully. "My mom says Miss Lily is too pretty to be alone," Sarah continued. "She says Miss Lily needs someone to take care of her because teaching music doesn't make enough money." The casual way Sarah discussed adult problems made Marcus's chest tighten. This child knew about financial struggles in a way he never had at her age. At 7, his biggest worry had been whether he'd get the latest video game for his birthday. "Miss Lily is very strong," Marcus said. "She takes care of herself and all of you. That's pretty impressive." Sarah considered this. "I guess so. But everybody needs somebody, my grandma says. Even strong people." Throughout the day, Marcus watched Lily work. She was everywhere at once, calming nervous students, adjusting microphones, reassuring worried parents, solving problems as they arose. She was patient with the children, firm but kind, and completely in her element. This was her world, and she moved through it with a grace Marcus envied. Around 3 in the afternoon, disaster struck. The piano they'd borrowed for the concert had a broken key, discovered only hours before the performance. One of the pieces the students were performing required that specific note. Panic spread through the volunteers. "What do we do?" one of the college students asked frantically. "We can't rent another piano this late, and we can't move the concert date. Families have already arranged their schedules." Lily stood staring at the piano, her face pale. Marcus saw her hands shaking slightly. This concert was crucial for fundraising. If it went poorly, the center had no chance of staying open. "Can the piece be rearranged?" Marcus asked. "Change to work without that note?" "Not without ruining it," Lily said quietly. It's the finale. The most important performance. All the students played together. Marcus pulled out his phone and stepped outside. He called his assistant, a miracle worker named Jennifer who somehow always found solutions to impossible problems. Jennifer, I need a piano. A good one. Delivered to this address in the next 2 hours. Mr. Chen, it's Saturday afternoon. Most rental places are closed, and the ones that are open won't do same-day delivery. I don't need a rental, Marcus said. Buy one. Whatever it takes. The center will keep it after the concert. There was a pause. Sir, that will cost at least $15,000 with rush delivery. I don't care. Make it happen. He hung up and went back inside. Lily was sitting on the stage steps, her head in her hands. Marcus sat beside her, careful not to touch her. It's going to be okay, he said. No, it's not, Lily replied. This was our last chance. If the concert fails, we're done. The kids are done. Trust me, Marcus said. Please. Lily looked at him with exhausted, hopeless eyes. But something in his expression made her nod. 2 hours later, a delivery truck pulled up outside. 4 men carefully unloaded a beautiful upright piano and wheeled it into the gymnasium. The volunteers stared in shock. Lily's face went from confusion to understanding to anger in rapid succession. She grabbed Marcus's arm and pulled him into a quiet corner. What did you do? She demanded. I made sure the concert could happen, Marcus said. I told you no money, Lily hissed. I specifically told you not to be the rich savior throwing money at problems. What if I don't care about any of that? Marcus said, leaning forward. What if being with you is worth more than maintaining some image or pleasing my mother or fitting into a world that makes me miserable? Lily shook her head sadly. You say that now? But Marcus, you don't really know me. We've had a few conversations. You've seen the romantic version of my life, the passionate music teacher helping poor children. You haven't seen me crying over bills I can't pay. You haven't seen me after a 14-hour day of dealing with screaming kids and broken instruments. You haven't seen the real mess of my life. Then let me see it, Marcus said. Let me be part of your real life, not just the park bench conversations. Why? Lily asked, her voice breaking. Why do you want this so badly? Is it because I'm different from the women you usually meet? Because I make you feel like a good person? Because I'm some project you can fix? Her questions cut deep because they echoed his own doubts. Marcus sat back, forcing himself to examine his feelings honestly. Was this about Lily, or was this about his own dissatisfaction with his life? I don't know, he admitted finally. Maybe at first, you were an escape. Someone different. Someone who made me question the path I'd been following without thinking. But Lily, these past weeks, getting to know you, hearing about your passion and your struggles and your dreams. I've felt more myself with you than I have in years. Maybe my whole life. That's still about you, Lily pointed out. About how I make you feel. What about me? What about what I need? Marcus realized she was right. He had been thinking about this relationship entirely from his own perspective. What do you need? He asked quietly. Lily was silent for a long moment. I need to know this is real, she finally said. I need to know you're not going to get bored of slumming it with the poor music teacher. I need to know that when things get hard, and they will get hard, you're not going to run back to your comfortable life. How can I prove that to you? Marcus asked. I don't know if you can, Lily said. That's what I've been thinking about all week. How can you prove something like that without living it? They sat in silence, the weight of impossible questions hanging between them. Outside Lily's window, the sounds of the neighborhood filtered in. A mother calling her children to dinner. Music from a nearby apartment. Car horns and distant sirens. This was Lily's world, and Marcus realized he knew nothing about living in it. Teach me, Marcus said suddenly. Teach you what? Teach me your world. Let me volunteer at the community center before they shut it down. Let me meet your students. Let me see what your days are actually like. And if after that, I still want to be part of your life, will you believe me? Lily studied his face for a long moment. There was something appealing about his proposal, but also terrifying. Letting him into her real life meant risking real rejection. When he saw the full picture, the endless struggles and small disappointments, would he still find her interesting? Okay, she said finally. But I have conditions. Anything, Marcus said. First, you can't throw money at problems. If you come to the center, you come as a volunteer, not as a rich savior. Second, if you realize this isn't for you, you have to be honest. Don't string me along out of guilt or pity. And third, we take this slow. No grand gestures, no declarations. Just time and honesty. Marcus nodded. I agree to all of that. The center is running a final fundraising event next Saturday, Lily said. A small concert where the kids perform for their families. We're hoping to raise enough money to stay open a few more months. You can come help set up, and you can see what my world really looks like. I'll be there, Marcus promised. As he left her apartment that evening, walking down the 4 flights of stairs, Marcus felt both exhilarated and terrified. He had no idea how to be a volunteer at a community center. He had no experience with children. He didn't know the first thing about music education. But for the first time in his adult life, he was doing something that wasn't calculated for career advancement or social status. He was doing something real. His phone rang as he reached his car. It was his mother again. He looked at the screen, took a deep breath, and answered. Mom, I need you to stop sending me photos of women. I'm serious about Lily. I know you won't understand right now, but I'm asking you to trust me. There was a long pause on the other end. Then his mother's voice, cold and disappointed. I hope you know what you're doing, Marcus. I really do. Marcus didn't hear from Lily for a week. He texted her several times, but she didn't respond. He drove past the community center twice, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but felt like a stalker and stopped. His work suffered as he sat through meetings thinking about her words. Different worlds. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was foolish to think their connection meant anything. His mother's calls had become impossible to ignore. Finally, he agreed to meet her for lunch at her favorite restaurant. She arrived dressed elegantly, carrying a folder that Marcus knew contained more photos of potential matches. Marcus, darling, she began before they even ordered food. I've found someone perfect for you. Victoria Huang. Her family owns 3 hotels, she went to Yale, and she's beautiful. Look at her photo. Marcus barely glanced at the picture. Victoria was indeed beautiful in that polished, perfect way that women in his social circle always were. She probably had a flawless resume and appropriate hobbies and knew all the right people. Mom, I need to tell you something, Marcus said, interrupting her detailed description of Victoria's accomplishments. His mother looked at him expectantly. I met someone, Marcus continued. Her name is Lily. She's a music teacher. His mother's face froze. A music teacher? What does her family do? Where did she go to school? I don't know, Marcus admitted. We've never talked about those things. You don't know? His mother's voice rose. Marcus Chen, what are you thinking? You're 32 years old, a successful professional. You can't throw your life away on some poor girl with no prospects. She's not some poor girl, Marcus said, anger rising in his voice. She's passionate and dedicated and she cares about making a difference in children's lives. She's more real than anyone I've ever met. His mother sighed dramatically. Oh, Marcus. You've always been too soft-hearted. This is clearly just a phase. You feel sorry for her. That's not love, that's pity. You don't know what you're talking about, Marcus said, standing up. And I didn't say I loved her. I said I met her. But as the words left his mouth, Marcus realized his mother might have touched on something true. Did he love Lily? Or was this just an escape from his unsatisfying life? Was he using her as a way to feel noble and different from his materialistic world? He left the restaurant without eating, his mother calling after him about being dramatic. He walked through the city streets, past luxury boutiques and expensive restaurants, and found himself at the park where he and Lily had spent so many afternoons talking. An old man was sitting on their bench, feeding pigeons. Marcus sat on the grass nearby, watching the birds fight over breadcrumbs. Everything his mother said made logical sense. He and Lily were from different backgrounds, had different expectations, lived different lives. A relationship between them would be complicated and probably doomed. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. Just 3 words, "Can we talk?" Marcus's heart jumped. He called her immediately. "Where are you?" he asked when she answered. "My apartment," she said quietly. "Can you come here?" She gave him an address in a neighborhood Marcus had never visited. As his car navigated through narrower streets with older buildings, he saw a side of the city he'd only glimpsed from highways. Small shops with faded signs, laundromats where families gathered, children playing in the streets because their apartments were too small. Lily's building was old but clean. He climbed 4 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. She opened the door before he could knock, as if she'd been watching for him. Her apartment was tiny. A single room with a kitchen in one corner, a bed in another, and a small table near the window. But it was filled with warmth. Colorful curtains, plants on every surface, photos of her students on the walls, and sheet music scattered across every flat space. "I'm sorry I didn't respond to your texts," Lily said, gesturing for him to sit at the small table. "I needed time to think." "About what?" Marcus asked, though he feared he knew the answer. "About us," Lily said. "About whether there can even be an us. Marcus, you're so far above me in every way. You live in a different world. I saw your car downstairs. That thing probably costs more than I'll make in 5 years." "That doesn't matter," Marcus protested. "It does matter," Lily said firmly. "Because eventually, you'll realize I can't keep up with your lifestyle. Your friends, your family, your expectations. I'll embarrass you at fancy dinners. I won't know which fork to use. Your mother will hate me." Marcus couldn't argue with the last point. His mother would indeed hate Lily, at least at first. But something had become clear to him during his walk. Saturday arrived with clear blue skies. Marcus changed his outfit 3 times before leaving his apartment. He had never been nervous about meeting someone before, but today his hands were shaking as he buttoned his shirt. He finally settled on casual jeans and a simple sweater, trying not to look too formal or too wealthy. The park was different from the manicured green spaces Marcus usually saw from his car window. This one had cracked benches, overgrown grass in places, and children playing on rusty playground equipment. He spotted Lily sitting under a large oak tree, her violin case beside her. She was eating a sandwich and reading a worn paperback book. "You came," Lily said, looking up with surprise in her eyes. She had convinced herself he wouldn't show up, that men like him didn't keep promises to women like her. "Of course I came," Marcus replied, sitting down on the grass beside her bench. "I said I would." They fell into easy conversation. Lily told him more about her students. There was Maria, whose father had left and whose mother worked 3 jobs. There was James, who stuttered when he spoke but became confident when he played the flute. There was little Sarah, who came from a home where her parents fought constantly, and music class was the only hour of her day when she smiled. Marcus listened intently. He had never thought about children like this before. In his world, children were abstract concepts, future clients, or obstacles to careers. But the way Lily described them, they became real people with hopes and struggles and potential. "Why music?" Marcus asked. "Why not something more practical, like teaching them computer skills or math?" Lily's face became serious. "Because these kids already know the world is hard. They already know about bills and hunger and disappointment. Music teaches them that beauty exists too. That they can create something wonderful even when everything around them is difficult. Some of them will become musicians, sure, but all of them will learn that they're capable of something extraordinary. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. He had spent his entire adult life chasing practical things. Promotions, bonuses, status symbols. Nobody had ever asked him what brought him joy or what beauty he created in the world. He suddenly felt very small and very empty. They met again the following week, and the week after that. Marcus found himself texting Lily throughout his workdays, asking about her students, sharing small observations about his own life. She made him laugh with stories about her attempts to teach tone-deaf children to sing. He made her think with questions about her teaching methods and her passion for music. One evening, as they sat in the park watching the sunset, Lily's phone rang. She answered it quickly, and Marcus watched her face fall. "Yes, I understand," she said quietly. "Thank you for letting me know." She hung up and stared at her hands. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. "The community center," Lily said, her voice breaking slightly. "They're cutting funding again. They're letting me go at the end of the month. No more music program. The kids won't have anywhere to go after school." Tears welled up in her eyes, though she tried to blink them away. Marcus reached out instinctively and took her hand. It was the first time they had touched since that initial handshake in the coffee shop. Her hand felt cold and small in his. "There has to be something we can do," Marcus said. "We?" Lily looked at him questioningly. "This isn't your problem, Marcus. You've been kind to me, but you don't have to fix my life." "What if I want to help?" Marcus asked. "What if I could donate enough to keep the program running?" Lily pulled her hand away abruptly. "No," she said firmly. "I don't want your money. I'm not some charity case you can feel good about helping. I told you from the beginning, I don't need rich people throwing money at problems and then forgetting about them." Marcus felt stung by her words but understood her pride. "I didn't mean it like that," he said softly. "I just hate seeing you hurt." The atmosphere between them had changed. Lily gathered her things quickly. "I should go," she said. "Thank you for your time these past weeks. You're a good person, Marcus, but we really are from different worlds." She left before Marcus could respond. He sat alone on the bench as darkness fell around him, feeling more lost than he had in years. He had money, power, and success, but he couldn't help the one person who had made him feel truly alive. Lily hesitated before answering. She didn't want pity from this wealthy stranger, but something about his genuine concern made her guard drop slightly. "This morning," she admitted. "I've been trying to save money. The community center cut my hours last month, and rent is due next week." Marcus felt uncomfortable. He had spent more on his watch than this woman probably made in 6 months. He pushed the plate of pastries toward her. "Please, eat. I ordered too much anyway." They talked for over an hour. Lily told him about her students, mostly children from low-income families who came to the center after school. She described their excitement when they held instruments for the first time, how music gave them an escape from difficult home situations. Her eyes sparkled when she spoke about a 10-year-old boy who had just learned to play his first complete song. Marcus found himself genuinely interested. Nobody in his circle talked about things like this. Their conversations revolved around stock markets, luxury vacations, and office politics. Lily's passion for her work was refreshing, almost intoxicating. He had forgotten that people could love what they did for reasons other than money or status. "What about you?" Lily asked, breaking him from his thoughts. "What do you do?" "I'm in finance," Marcus said vaguely. He had learned long ago that mentioning his position as vice president of investment banking made people treat him differently. "Numbers, mostly. It's not very exciting." Lily smiled. "I'm terrible with numbers. That's probably why I'm always broke." She laughed, but there was sadness behind it. As the evening wore on, the coffee shop began to empty. Lily glanced at her phone and gasped. "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize how late it got. I need to go." Thank you for the coffee and food. You're very kind. She stood quickly, gathering her violin case and shabby coat. Marcus stood too, not wanting the conversation to end. Wait, he said, then paused, unsure what to say next. Can I see you again? Lily looked at him skeptically. Why would you want to do that? We're from completely different worlds. Maybe that's exactly why, Marcus replied honestly. I feel more alive talking to you for an hour than I have in years doing what I'm supposed to do. There was a long silence. Lily studied his face, searching for signs of deception or ulterior motives. She had been disappointed by people before, especially men who made promises they never kept. But something in Marcus's eyes seemed sincere. I don't date people just because they buy me coffee, she said firmly. I'm not asking for a date, Marcus said quickly. Just another conversation. Maybe you could tell me more about your work at the community center. I'd genuinely like to hear about it. Lily considered this. She was lonely too, though she rarely admitted it. Her life consisted of teaching children, practicing violin in her tiny apartment, and trying to make ends meet. Adult friendships had fallen away as everyone else moved on to stable careers and families. Okay, she finally agreed. But somewhere different. Not another expensive coffee shop. There's a park near the community center. I eat lunch there sometimes. You can meet me there if you want. Marcus nodded eagerly. Tomorrow? Saturday, Lily countered. I work until 7 most weekdays. They exchanged phone numbers, and Lily left the coffee shop feeling confused. She didn't understand why a man like Marcus would be interested in talking to her. She had nothing to offer him, no connections, no wealth, no impressive career. As she walked to the bus stop, violin case bumping against her leg, she wondered if he would actually show up on Saturday. Marcus watched her leave through the window. His colleagues had long since departed, leaving their celebration mess behind. He looked at his phone and saw 17 missed calls from his mother. He ignored them and saved Lily's number in his contacts. For the first time in months, he felt something resembling excitement about the future. When he finally got home to his pristine penthouse apartment, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the woman with paint-stained fingers and a love for teaching music to children nobody else cared about. He had met hundreds of impressive people in his career, but none had impressed him the way Lily had with her simple dedication to something meaningful. Marcus Chen stood in the corner of the crowded coffee shop, watching his colleagues celebrate another successful quarter. He held a champagne glass he hadn't touched, his mind wandering to the empty apartment waiting for him. At 32, he had everything the world told him to want. A corner office, a luxury car, designer suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Yet something felt hollow inside him. His mother had been calling him 3 times a day for the past month. Every conversation ended the same way. She wanted him to meet someone, anyone. The pressure to settle down had become unbearable. His younger sister had married 2 years ago, and now his mother had shifted all her attention to him. She sent him photos of women from good families, women with impressive careers, women she deemed suitable. Marcus deleted each message without opening them. The coffee shop door chimed, and a woman walked in carrying a violin case. She wore a simple blue dress and had paint stains on her fingers. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked around the crowded space with tired eyes. Something about her caught Marcus's attention. She seemed out of place among the corporate crowd, like a wildflower growing through concrete. She approached the counter and spoke quietly to the barista. Marcus watched as she pulled out crumpled bills from her pocket, counting them carefully. The barista shook his head and pointed to the price board. The woman's shoulders slumped. She said something else, gesturing to her violin case, but the barista simply shrugged and turned to help another customer. Marcus found himself walking toward her before he could think about it. He had never been the type to approach strangers, but something pulled him forward. When he reached her, she was already turning to leave, clutching her violin case close to her chest. "Excuse me," Marcus said softly. "I couldn't help but notice. Can I buy you a coffee?" The woman looked at him with suspicious eyes. She had seen men like him before, Men in expensive suits who thought money could buy anything, including her time. "No, thank you," she said firmly and moved toward the door. Marcus felt embarrassed, but something made him try again. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I just thought you looked like you could use a warm drink. It's cold outside." She stopped and turned back to him. Her expression softened slightly. "Why would you do that for a stranger?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted honestly. "Maybe because everyone in this room is a stranger to me too, despite working with them for years." There was something in his voice, a loneliness that matched her own, that made her pause. She studied his face for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay. But just coffee. Nothing else." They sat at a small table by the window. Marcus ordered 2 coffees and some pastries, though she initially refused the food. As they waited, an awkward silence settled between them. Marcus wasn't good at small talk. His life revolved around business meetings and quarterly reports, not casual conversations with strangers. "I'm Marcus," he finally said, extending his hand. "Lily," she replied, shaking it briefly. Her hands were rough, not the soft manicured hands of the women his mother kept sending him photos of. "You play violin?" Marcus asked, gesturing to the case beside her chair. Lily's face lit up for the first time. "I do. I'm a music teacher at a community center. We're trying to raise funds for new instruments for the kids." She paused, then added quietly, "Not going very well, as you can see." Marcus felt a twinge in his chest. He donated thousands to charity galas every year, writing checks while sipping expensive wine, but he had never actually met someone who worked directly with the people they helped. "That sounds like important work," he said genuinely. Their coffee arrived, and Lily wrapped her hands around the warm cup gratefully. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, and the pastry Marcus had ordered looked incredibly tempting. She took a small bite, trying not to seem too eager, but her hunger betrayed her. "When did you last eat?" Marcus asked gently.